Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you another video. So I just watched Travis Scott's 50-minute interview with Charlemagne the God. I felt Charlemagne did a really good job trying to navigate the interview. And for me, I just wanted to kind of just chime in on what I thought of him doing an interview rather than get into the details of the interview because a lot of things were said. Some things were kind of repeated. You know, more or less, he was trying to convey that he wants to be a solution to the issue. I didn't hear him necessarily take accountability for people being trampled per se at his concert, but he did provide something that I thought was pretty interesting in terms of a solution that maybe either he came up with or his team came up with or what have you, where the same wristbands that they use to kind of account for everybody, they could also kind of make them tax savvy and make it so that they can check vitals and communicate with officials and security and stuff like that for situations such as those. So that's the gist of what I took in terms of the solution that was a tangible solution that was offered in that interview. But everything else was more or less him just trying to say that he didn't feel that it was his music that was the problem, and though he feels like he's you know been vilified, um, he does believe that that comes with the seat that he's in, the situation he's in. Um, I think the problem with the situation is what is being reported is that he did this against the wishes of his team, the people who advised him. And I just feel like there were times in that interview where he was a bit, um, he didn't have the understanding he needed to know what it is that he should be saying and should not be saying from a technical legal perspective. He appeared to my eyesight to take accountability for things that I don't think his lawyers really wanted him to, answering questions in a certain way that I don't think really help him in the court of law. And this is the danger of getting on television and speaking your piece in regards to a situation where you're being blamed, where the entire situation was just tragic and your name is attached to it as the number one draw to the situation. So, um, all in all, I just think that Travis Scott, I think he meant well. I think if we lived in a world where people's intentions would translate to good results, I think he would have been fine today. I think that interview rather would go over just fine. But I think when you have people who are grieving, and you have people who sympathize with those who are grieving, and you have people who perceive things a certain way because the media is painting the picture the way that they have, um, it's best to not talk at all. It's best to be in silence in that particular type of situation where it's a legal thing where people can literally take your words and attach jail time to you or attach outstanding amounts of money to you. He's being sued by a lot of people. He's been in this situation. Families who are not pleased with how this turned out, to say the least, they are looking to blame someone, and he's the guy whose name is attached to it. Now, in my personal opinion, I made a video about this. I think, the venue, those who secure that venue are probably the ones who ultimately need to be held accountable for this. The problem is, again, he's the draw. So there's no way for me to know personally if that does fall back on him at the end of the day. I just don't know. But what I can say is um, he didn't do himself any favors. No favors with this one. No favors. He meant well, but you just have to be very, very careful. It's most important that celebrities, athletes, and everybody understand that, the world that you are in is not the world the rest of us are in. There are people out here who make their living off of people misspeaking in situations like this. Lawyers who literally will take everything you say, flip it in such a way to make it as if you said something entirely different just based off of you saying yes or no to certain questions, and then running with that, and that will be bad consequences for you. And being that people have lost their lives in this situation, we're talking about prison time, sir. We're not talking about just loss of money and being canceled and blackballed. No, we're talking about people lost their lives, and somebody's gonna have to pay for that. And I know they're gonna try to crucify him, and maybe that's what needs to happen. I don't know. I'm really not sure. What I think, though, honestly, is um, when you have a situation where you have that many people going forward, it needs to be very, very important that they have an equal amount of security, if not equal, a great deal more of security and a great deal more of control over capacity being um, outweighed, being overdone. See, the thing about what I've read and understood this situation is that there was a lot of people who rushed in there, and because there was a lot of people who rushed in there without paying, it made it so that it was not safe. It would have been safe if there would have been, uh, if it would have been the amount of people that they were expecting to have there. But because it wasn't, it became a situation where it was like too many people in one confined space, too many people moving around in certain ways, not enough water, not enough um, of all that's needed to keep people safe in those situations. So as a result, it got real ugly. And then there was reports of some dude going around hitting people, sticking people with a syringe or something. I don't know how true that was, but from what I understand, that allegedly um, was a catalyst for a lot of what went wrong there. I don't know if that turned out to be true or not. But what I'm saying is, who all was in charge, or rather, responsible for this? It's a bunch of people in tandem. A bunch of people in tandem, including every single individual who made it a point to illegally enter the Astroworld concert. Their actions too contributed to the overall circumstance. And I think if you really want to start passing blame, you have to find each and every individual soul who illegally entered the astral world and hold them accountable for the overall circumstance of what took place as well. Because if you're going to hold the people accountable who are supposed to control the venue and keep the venue safe, then you have to understand that they designed it for it to be a certain way. And while it's also their responsibility to control the security aspect of it, then you start getting into other aspects of who's supposed to help them do that. Where did this take place? In the city of Houston. Okay. Houston allowed Astroworld to take place. They sanctioned them and gave them all that they needed so that they could get this done from a legal perspective. So some of it has to obviously fall on the official state or the city of Houston or what have you for allowing these individuals who may or may not have been equipped for what it is that they were throwing to have that venue. So we start talking about who's to blame. It don't stop at Travis Scott. It don't stop with just individuals running in there being this, that, and the third. It doesn't stop with just the venue itself and they being responsible for securing the venue. It goes a little further too. You got to start digging into who allowed who to do what. If I said yes, you're competent enough to do something, and you don't get it done, it falls back on me. You see what I'm saying? And I'd imagine that you scratch a sniff around there, you'll find some accountability worth handing out. So yeah, there's gonna be everybody passing the blame to everybody. There was a line of questioning in this conversation that questioned if this was Rock Nation's fault. You know, they were questioning everything. Charlemagne made sure he put the questions out there, but I think Travis Scott made it clear that he wasn't trying to pass blame. He obviously didn't want to take blame for legal reasons, but it didn't seem as if he was comfortable passing blame. But in situations like this, when you're going against your lawyers, if that is what has taken place here in regards to him doing this interview, then the things that he said, I'm sure, were not strategized. They were not things that they wanted him to say. He probably wasn't vetted properly, if the reports are true that he did this behind their backs, or against their wishes, rather. So yeah, I don't think he did himself a lot of favors. I would have liked to have heard him try to insinuate more remorse for his part in what took place, but As I said, taking accountability can be used against him, and he has to be very careful not to say, yes, it's my fault, or I'm sorry I did, or anything of that nature. So, and that's why this interview can't be done. This is why you don't do this, because you're stuck between wanting to be forthright in what you can and the fact that there are opportunist lawyers on the other side who are going to mistake or misuse your words, rather switch those words around, and ultimately try to get you thrown in prison. And so that's ultimately what Travis Scott needs to understand. Beyond the shadow of a doubt, he must understand that they're not going to stop at just taking money from you. They're going to try to throw you in prison for this. People lost their lives, and the people who are in position to take who are in overall position to take accountability for it, they're powerful, and they would much rather toss this on to the artists so they can continue to throw many other venues with many other different artists, and you could be the reason why all this happened, when we know that it's not that simple. And it's never that simple. It's never a 27-year-old fault that a bunch of people passed away. That requires a lot of people to not do their jobs properly. Let's just be real. It's not just the artists. And some people, they've been saying, oh, it was a demonic scene up there. He's a devil worshiper. And he got up there and said, no, I'm a man of God. And all of that stuff is very, very important in terms of us liking Travis Scott, or people agreeing with Travis Scott, or people thinking Travis Scott is a nice guy. But to be honest with you, that has little to no consequence in regards to whether or not Travis Scott deserves jail time. You can be the greatest guy in the world, the pastor of all pastors, but if something like this happens at a church, you're gonna see people try to get the preacher up out of here. You're gonna see the same type of thing, because at the end of the day, it's not about the music necessarily. It's about what ended up taking place. And if they can prove that you incited that with your lyrics, if they can prove you incited that with past behavior, you understand what I'm saying? Like, this is what it is when you go to a Travis Scott concert. If they can prove that, then the consequences come down, and that's what he hurt himself in today. I think he actually helped them prove that his past energy in concerts, past energy, him telling people, get lit and all that good stuff, they can argue that culture is ultimately what led to the behavior in this particular situation. And that is why it's so important you don't do this interview. You just don't do this. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't stress it enough. This was a horrible mistake for him. Horrible. Because, you got to understand, you live in a world where you're an artist. You're a superstar. You got millions of dollars. You got, famous lady in your life, and famous kids, and everything going on around you in the world when that you're in is not the real world. Travis, that ain't the real world. The real world is people are starving out here. And people who lost their lives are probably not very rich at all. Their families they don't have nothing in a lot of cases. They live working 9 to 5s, bro. These people lost their lives going to a concert that you're gonna make millions and millions of dollars off of annually. Nobody wants to hear from you in regards to you feeling anything ever in regards to this, because what they're gonna say is you're the rich guy, you're the famous guy, you're the one that's why everybody's there, and they're all dead because they wanted to come see you. They don't care if you're a good guy, a bad guy, if you feel bad, if you feel good, because you gotta understand, those who are suffering want you to suffer because they blame you. So the last thing they want to hear is you feel sorry for yourself, or you try to exalt yourself as to be some solution to the situation, or you to say, well, going forward, we have solutions because we're going to continue to do this crap. Nobody wants to see you do another one of these if they look at it as something that is demonic and ultimately going to kill people, which is how they're perceiving this. Never mind the truth. Never mind the reality of it. Never mind your intentions. This is how they perceive it. Why? Because this was a traumatic event that people lost their lives at. So now, Astroworld is going to be deemed in a lot of people's eyes a death trap. And any festival is a death trap. And that's why you're being blackballed, because now all the festivals don't want to have nothing to do with him. From what I understand, he offered to do a festival for free, one of the big festivals for free. And they turn him down. It's one of the biggest festival stars on the planet. This is one of the guys in this era. And they don't want to have nothing to do with him. And it's because of the situation. So, him speaking and communicating, having a desire to communicate, him saying that he wanted to communicate, I just don't know what it is that you actually are trying to convey. Remorse is not what you gave us. And see, that was another thing. He didn't give the people what they wanted. Not to say that he was able to, because legally he probably shouldn't give them what they want, but that's the whole point. You can't be honest. You can't be forthright. Because it's not just a communication between you and your fans. It's communication between you, your fans, and everybody else who's watching, including the lawyers on the other side. So, yeah, man, I expect horrible, horrible results of this. Honestly, I think they could give him jail time for real. And I don't know if he deserves it or not. I think a lot of people deserve jail time for this. A whole lot. Every single human being who trampled anybody who's rushing in or out of that place who didn't have a ticket deserved jail time for that. To keep it real, they all are responsible. The venue people. And the sad thing about it is the people who secured the venue, they deserve some blame, but not nearly as much as they normally would. Because for what it is that they were paid to do, which is to handle a certain level, certain capacity, they did their job. You see what I'm saying? For those who structured the venue itself, they made it so that it was safe for the amount of people it was meant for. But once you start having people rushing in and all of that, then you start finding yourself in a situation where things like this occur. So, are those people also insecure the borders of the property? Are they also in responsibility? Is it their responsibility to hire security to make sure that they have off-duty, on-site police officers to assure that situations can be taken care of? First responders. I have more questions than I have understanding in regards to that. I would trust that someone else would have that information, but these are the questions I have. It's like, when you start wanting to place blame, who's in charge of keeping the place secure? Who's in charge of making sure those people don't get in to make the place unsafe? And did those who secure the venue have any notion that this could happen? And if so, why did this occur? That's another question. Did you guys not expect that there would be a chance that you'd have a herd of kids rushing in? Did this have to occur in order for you to perceive it's possible? And if so, do we need to be trusting these individuals with securing any other venues? Because what I want to know for sure is that whatever venue I go to, they're prepared for the unexpected. That's what safety is about. That's what entrusting my life in your venue is about. It's about going there knowing that you have not only accounted for what you know could happen, but that you are also accountable and are smart enough to perceive what could possibly happen and is capable of preventing that as well. And that's not just the venue's deal. Again, that's the city, the state, that's everybody in tandem working together to assure that people are safe. And that's exactly what's going to have to happen. While we can most definitely place blame and most definitely get to the bottom line and find a justice for these victims, what we can also do is collectively understand that it takes an entire tandem to secure these venues. It takes the compliance from the people to pay for their tickets, and if something's at capacity, to respect that, because there's a reason something's at capacity, and it ain't just to keep you out. It's about those venue people making sure they prepare for the unexpected, and be able to hire people that perceive the unexpected, who can help them see what they don't see themselves. It's about the city making sure they hire people who are smart enough to do all of that, and making sure that they don't give, licenses to people who aren't able to do that. It's a tandem, and I think this is what the situation has taught us. Yeah, in a stupid world, we can just say, "Oh, it's Travis Scott's show," you blame him, and then let all the people off the hook who actually deserve, some blame. But we ain't gonna do that on this channel. We're smart enough to see other angles, so that's what I bring to you. So at the end of the day, Travis Scott is an artist. His relationship with music, his relationship with his fans, his desire to speak to his fans, that kid don't know no better. Let's just be real. He don't know no better. He don't even understand the world he's in. If he did, he would have never opened his mouth to talk to Charlemagne about nothing. Let's just keep it real. If he understood where he was at on this plate, like literally, where are you? You're on Earth. Yeah, on Earth, you shouldn't do that. So that just tells me he has yet to actually proceed to understand what exactly he's involved in as it pertains to his relationship as a celebrity to the Earth, the draw that he has in terms of people wanting to come to see him, whether they can afford to pay for it or not, and the responsibility he has to understand that now, because you get all the love for being and the money for being the face of Astroworld, now you got to get all the blame and the hate and the bullcrap that comes with things going wrong at Astroworld. You're the guy that gets all the money and the praise. You're also you're gonna be the guy that gets all the blame. And when that happens, nobody wants to hear from you at all. They don't want to hear from you. You know what I mean? Because you must understand, when people lose their lives, people are grieving, and when people are grieving, there's no logic involved. There's nothing but love for their loved one who's lost, and the pain that comes with that. And with that comes a myriad of mental health stuff and irrational thoughts and blame and anger and dare I say retaliation. With that, and people just want to see you suffer just because they blame you. So the last thing they want to see you do is find inner peace, for yourself. And that's exactly what he was looking for, inner peace. He was trying to heal his own head. He was trying to get out of his own skull. He wanted to communicate with the people so that they can know that he cares, so that he can stop getting the hate, so that he can stop being blackballed, so that everything can start falling into place for him. And I don't think that he's selfish in heart in that situation. I think the pressure to keep this $1 billion plus or whatever it is organization that his name is at the top of going, the pressure of all the different other professionals underneath him who are saying, Travis, it's incumbent upon you to make this right, or we gonna come back and sue you, or we gonna come back and say whatever. You understand what I'm saying? So the pressure for him to continue to be in the good graces of the fans is important. How he goes about doing that, that's the most important thing that he needs to understand. That went wrong here. You didn't go about that the right way at all. But so that's what I took from that situation. I just felt like he's a young dude, naive, hoping to heal his head, hoping to keep his business going, hoping to communicate with his fans that he's not a bad guy or a satanic guy or somebody who wanted this to happen, that he did not find himself on that stage knowing that people were passing away and not getting off the stage or stopping the show. He wanted to reiterate that he did stop when he saw that someone was passed out. He did stop the show. He wanted to make sure that we remembered that. I saw the footage of that. That is true. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's also reports of people saying that they spoke to him, that they were telling him on stage, yo, hey, you need to stop this. People are sick. And from according to those accounts, he didn't stop the show. He didn't even hardly acknowledge that. It was just like he was deadpan, according to them. So here's the truth. Here's what I think. This ain't the truth. This is what I believe is probably going on. I believe Travis Scott, like most rock stars, probably found himself a little inebriated, if not a lot inebriated on that stage. A lot of times it helps them. It helps them with their confidence, helps them with their anxiety, helps them with the schedule. I don't know Travis Scott's drug history or if he does any drugs at all. I'm not going to put that on him. But what I'm saying is a good portion of these rock stars, especially types that do the music that he does, yeah, they get high, man. So they're not going to be 100% on that stage. He ain't going to be as sharp as he was in that interview on that stage. I can tell you that. Even if it's just from fatigue, he ain't going to be as sharp. Even if it's just from focus of the music, he ain't going to be as sharp. And another thing I can say is like, musical minds, people who are really musical artists, not just people who like listen to music, but people who create music, their relationship with music is different. Their relationship, the way they perceive music, the way they receive music, it's not like the rest of us. they can get lost in the music. They can find themselves in a situation where they're not, not even present because the music is so engulfing them. And when you're on stage and you're focused on what it is your cues are, you're doing all the different stuff that you have to do, you're paying attention to the cues that you're getting on the stage. A lot of that is on the people you've hired to help you understand what all you need to do. And if they didn't communicate to him, hey, look, we need to stop this show, it's getting crazy out here, then a lot of that is what the problem is, making sure that you hire the right people who can tell you what's going on while you're on stage in whatever mindset or whatever trance you are in. It's not incumbent on, and he mentioned this as well, it's not incumbent on him to know what's going on 50 feet ahead, 70 feet ahead in a sea of human beings. That's on everybody else to communicate that to him. And if those official people don't communicate that to him, it's a wrap. He can do certain things like call and response, as he mentioned, to the fans to make sure that they're safe. It's make sure that they're there. But I mean, there's 70,000 people out there. How are you supposed to communicate? How are you supposed to know where one person or even 12 people are doing? You can't see all that. You know what I mean? So it's most important that we also admit that Travis Scott is not the first artist this has happened with. Maybe not to this degree, obviously, but we've seen concerts be unsafe for people. I remember Michael Jackson concerts, seeing footage when I was a little kid, people falling out all over the world. All over the world. No telling if some of those people survived. Like, honestly, it looked so bad. In some cases, they were going out there sleeping 5 and 6 days outside so they could be there for a Michael Jackson concert. I mean, this is not new behavior. Travis Scott is just following the forefathers that laid down the foundation for him to be able to do what it is he does. So, all in all, I look at Travis in a vacuum and just say he's a young man who's going to grow up in a bad way with this particular situation. He's going to learn exactly what went wrong here. And by the time he say my age, he'll know exactly why you shouldn't have did this. You know what I mean? It just comes with understanding where you're at, what your responsibility is, who's affected and how they feel, and ultimately what they expect or don't expect from you. What they want to happen to you in this case, which is justice for their family, families and the people who are lost. And that's what I'm saying. I've sent condolences to all of those who were lost. It was a 9-year-old boy who was lost in this. You know what I mean? Just off the age of some of the people lost alone, you can see that like nobody wants to hear you ease your mind, Travis. They want to see you suffer low key because they blame you for this. So the last thing they want to see is you find some inner peace up there with Charlemagne. I'm a good guy, and I want you guys to know that. We don't want you to be a good guy. You know what I mean? If we're paying over that kid, we want you to pay for that. And see, that's what you have to understand. That's what he needs to perceive. That's not good energy to take back, but you do need to be aware of it. When somebody's hurting, you gotta think, what if this was your family member? God forbid, what if this was your kid? Heads would roll. Heads would literally roll. This wouldn't be a situation where anything or nothing. If something happened to Travis's kid, there's people already dealing with the consequences of that before we even get to hear about it. And so he has to understand that he's on the other side of that with people who don't have that type of power. And because he is the subject and does have that type of power, they're going to take a great chunk out of him. They're going to try to take all his money. They're going to try to keep him from ever doing this again. Having another Astro World. I don't see that happening again. Not in Houston. No time soon, if ever. And he's just going to absorb that. I still think good music can come from this kid. He's a music factory. His talent is undeniable in my eyes. He's a musical, and he's growing. He's getting better and better. So it's not about whether or not he can still deliver good music. The question is, can he ever find himself as big as he used to be? The answer is, I don't think so. I don't believe it'll ever be like that. I don't think it'll ever be like it was, because now he's always going to be attached to the worst concert experience ever on the planet Earth. Basically. I mean, to our knowledge, obviously, we'd have to go back to like the Roman days to probably find something like this. You know what I mean? And just like I said, the testimony and the accounts were so horrific, and the testimony of him being indifferent on that stage or being despondent on that stage, and people talking about it being a devil experience and all that ain't gonna leave nobody's mind. Nobody's gonna forget that. And while I say I think he meant well, you know what I mean? Or I could say I think when he says he's a man of God, I think I believe him. But the bottom line is, those accounts, those testimonies, those are etched in my mind. And I'm sure they're etched in the rest of these people's minds too. So it is what it is, man. I just feel bad for the victims. I don't feel bad for Travis. I I don't feel bad for Houston's officials who are gonna have to pay a lot of money or have to deal with this. Nah, I feel bad for families and the victims. I don't feel bad for those people who were traumatized, who were also trampling out and ultimately catered to this nonsense. Nah, if you stomped on somebody on the way out, I don't feel bad for you. You were part of the problem. You know, I just think that all in all, at the end of the day, Travis should not have done this interview. That's the bottom line. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching.